to the 200th episode of The Follow-Up. I'm Eden, and this is my dad, Noah, and for the past 4 years now, we've been sitting on my bed and having a conversation about whatever we want to talk about. And it started when I was 5, now I'm 9.5. You used to do a podcast called The Follow-Up, where you would just have a meaningful conversation with someone.
Yep.
When I was 5, I asked you if I could join, and we could do a podcast together. And this is how this all evolved. Now, we've come so far, and we've talked about everything, whatever's on our mind. And here we are now, at the 200th episode.
Yeah, it is pretty wild. And in the archives of the audio version of the podcast, you can go back and listen to all those previous episodes of the follow-up before you were on. So I would just have these 8 to 15-minute conversations with people from all walks of life, just ask one question, and then follow up to show that you could have a meaningful conversation by simply listening and then asking the right questions. And it doesn't have to be this hour-long conversation.
Yeah.
And then you were on when you were turning 3 and 4. Sometimes we would do vacation recaps, and those are great to go back and listen to.
Those are some of the ones for my birthday when I was like 3 were so funny.
So you can go back and listen to those in the archives, and then we'd put them on video through a company called Vocal with Ted Price, and that was so great that we turned on the camera, and now a bunch of those for the past, I'd say 50, 60 episodes maybe are on YouTube now.
Yeah.
But you can still go back and listen to all those other ones, starting with our first one together in April of, I think we recorded in April, we released it in June of 2020 during the pandemic about like coronavirus and what's going on.
That was our first one, right?
That was our first one. We did it from your grandparents' basement when we left New York for a few months.
And I remember our second one, If Anybody Wants Sword, it was we taught people how to play Crazy Eights. I remember that.
Yeah.
Those were a lot of fun. Yeah.
And we interviewed Mom.
Yes.
At one point in the basement.
Yes.
But for the, I'd say 99% of these episodes, we are sitting right here with the elephants in the background on your bed.
And I think in the video ones even, like, you could see the changes on my wall. Like, when you were going through them, like, I had, like, a space poster, like, that was, like, over there. Top of my Taylor Swift, like, one. And it's funny even just to see how, like, my bed has changed even.
Yeah, we've gotten some more, you've gotten some more stuffed animals.
Yes.
There's the NBC pillow. They're different. Yeah, you can tell based on what is going on your bed about how old you are, really. And so we're going to put out this podcast, and then another one that is, I just went through a whole bunch of clips, and I'm going to teach you how to do this too.
Yeah.
Went through a whole bunch of clips, and from, maybe it was like 2 or 3 from each year, and put them together, and that'll be a special celebrating 200 episodes of the podcast going. And what I did was, I didn't use any of the ones, I don't think I used any of the ones from when we weren't on the bed. So it all just shows, or maybe some from the very, very beginning, maybe some from the very first one, but then the rest of them are on the bed so you can see just how you've grown, which is really nice. And that's been one of the nicest things, just this time capsule that we have together, Mom has, grandparents have, just of you and us and growing and doing something together.
And I think it's cool to see even just how our topics have grown from the coronavirus to things happening at school. I think going back to see what we were talking about before, even how my voice has changed is crazy.
You still sound the same when you have a stuffy nose, though.
Yes, I do.
You have a stuffy nose. Yeah, and coming into this episode, I'd asked you, I said, all right, I want you to write down a few things that I won't look at, and I'll write down some as well, that why this podcast together is meaningful. Like, why do you enjoy doing this? Yeah. So let's start with that. And so give me something from your list that you find so meaningful about this podcast.
I think it's that we talk about what's on our minds, and especially when we talk about hard, serious topics, or when we talk about things that happen at school with me, that if I'm having a hard time, I think in those podcasts, we want to talk about, what's happening, but we also want to help others, so we give some tips, so others can, maybe if they're going through this, this can help them, or like, we just want to, with these podcasts, we guess that other people at least someone in the world has the same thing on their mind. And I think it's nice to just share some things that are on our minds to the world.
Yeah, I mean, I oftentimes will read, I mean, I've talked to you plenty about just how difficult parenting is. And it has nothing to do with you as a kid, just parenting is hard. And so I'll read a ton, listen to a ton, watch a ton of different things, and sometimes I'll send you things like, hey, this is what I was reading about parenting or this age, and so that you can relate to what we're thinking about. And so by us talking about things that are going on in school or school shootings or the coronavirus or the election or just things that are major stories that maybe other parents don't know, like want to talk to their kids about, but maybe don't know how. And so just like we look to others for certain pathways, then I think I've had a bunch of friends say to me, hey, like, I really appreciated you talking about even losing her first tooth because my child was afraid of losing their tooth, that it was going to be too painful.
I think something that we love is just helping others by just having a 15-minute, 10-minute conversation. Just a simple conversation, but that can be so helpful to someone else.
But also, I think it's helpful. It's certainly helpful to the two of us.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Just talking, even.
Yeah, and there are certain things that, even more so recently, that I want you to go back and listen to your own words, because when you listen to yourself say it, like you've said it, but then you're maybe listening to it again will even further resonate with you. Like, yes, I was feeling this. This is what I said. This is how I'm going to get through something. But I need to hear it from my own voice again. Yeah. I also think it's a great way to bond. Like we have, this is something that we do usually every Sunday.
Yeah, and we just record just this podcast every week, and we think through the week just what we want to talk about, and we just have a great conversation every week.
Yeah, and it's something for us that we share. We do a lot of things. We do a lot of things as a family. You do a lot of things with other people, and I have other friends, etc. But this is something that this is ours.
Yeah,
and it's nice.
I look forward to this every week because I know, like, I think about it. I get excited to have these just short but meaningful conversations every week. Yeah.
You sound like you're writing the description to the podcast. Short but meaningful conversations.
Well, that's
true. Yeah,
I think that is a very accurate description.
I also like the idea of you understanding the commitment that, okay, if we're going to do this, then I've always said, look, if you don't want to do this anymore, we don't have to do it anymore. But you feel a commitment to it, and you're sticking with it.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of things that in life that you might say, nah, I don't want to do this anymore, or I wasn't that good at that, so I don't want to do it anymore. But this is a matter of a commitment, and you're sticking to it, and also like getting through other things. Like, all right, so you want to get better at tennis. Okay, well then stick with it.
Yeah.
And make it a commitment and make it a priority to get better, or anything. I was just throwing out something athletic. So I think the commitment is important as well.
Yeah, and kind of adding on to that, I think when I was 5, just like starting it, I think another goal was improving my conversation skills, learning how to ask good questions, just have a good, decent conversation with someone.
So what I would want is for you to continue that in real life, and that's what we had talked about. That it was building conversation skills, listening, and what I want you to continue doing is feeling comfortable asking questions, and to friends, to adults, so that you're not having a conversation and it's just like a one-way conversation. Yeah. They're just talking. Or that afterwards you're not asking us, like, oh, why did they do this, or why did they say, like, just ask. Just ask. And also being the first one in the conversation to say, like, oh, like, where did you go for dinner last night, or oh, did you have a good time yesterday, or what did you like about this? Like, you're especially in your generation of, and it's not just with adults, but with kids more so, that there's fewer and fewer face-to-face type conversations, like with the spoken word. And whether or not someone's used to having those types of conversations or not, inherently, humans, we want to have that human interaction. So if you can be the leader...
We like to see people.
Yes, and if you can be the leader in having those conversations with people, you're going to be one that other people want to be around, because like you're interested in people, and you can ask the questions and add on to, like, oh, if they say something about dancing or basketball or books, you can say, oh yeah, I read all those Judy Blume books, like this one was my favorite, like which one was yours? Oh, you like Judy Blume? Like, have you ever read? And then another author, so that you are active in these conversations.
And it's never bad to be curious. There's technically no wrong question.
No bad question,
No
right.
bad question, really. If you want to know something, just ask the question. I feel like there's no really bad question that you can't, that's like forbidden to ask.
Right. Yeah, and I think on that note, that this is the things that we talk about, it's teaching, you teaching me, me teaching you, without it feeling like a lesson.
Exactly. It's not like I'm in school and I'm like, well, 8 plus 1 is 9. I'm not teaching you...
You guys are past that, right?
Yeah, I'm not teaching you a math, like, I'm not teaching you a lesson that's, like, boring. Yeah, we're teaching each other something, but in a different way that makes it interesting to listen to each other, for other people to listen to.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's a fun way just to talk about things.
Yeah. What I also think is interesting is that, so we were with one of your friends last night, and who said, I've listened to some of your podcasts, and you say, oh, thanks, like that's nice, and like which ones, and
yeah, she's texted me about some of them, that she's listened to some of them. Yeah.
So, but you never tell your friends, oh, I have a podcast.
No. She found out because I was scrolling on my Spotify and she saw it.
Oh, okay. So, what I do want to, and that is totally fine with me. I do want to know, because that's a conscious effort by you not to tell somebody.
Yeah.
That's all. Why?
Honestly, I don't know. It's just like,
I have my own theories.
I feel like it's not like my own personality, just like to tell someone, oh, I do a podcast with my dad. Right. It's on YouTube, it's on Spotify, blah, blah, blah.
Yep.
Like,
I agree.
It's just like, I just don't. Like, I mean, it's not like bragging. But I mean, like, I could just say I do a podcast. Like, if you want to listen to it, it's on YouTube or Spotify.
Yes.
But
okay. So I think
it's just not me to say that.
So this is exactly what I was thinking. You hear other kids say, like, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, I'm doing this, and the tone of voice is bragging.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you don't like that, and oftentimes you'll just say, okay, oh, cool, like, you kind of just just go along with it. You, it's called humoring them, like, oh, cool, like, yeah, that's great, and you might even think it's cool, but you don't like their tone of voice, so you are very conscious of anything coming off as bragging, and something that Grandpa Sonny told me when I was a little kid was, I would never forget. We were on the boardwalk in Atlantic City, okay? And we were with, we were with the Wieners. We were with like Hope and Stacy, and I think Gary was there too, Carol, and Dad and I, Grandpa and I just played Papa Shot, and I broke the record on the machine.
Oh, nice.
And when I came out, I told, like, Gary, I think, and Hope and Stacy, and they were like, oh, that's awesome. And then I started walking with Grandpa, and he said, I know you're really proud of what you did. Something to remember is it always sounds better when someone else speaks of your achievements more than ahead of you.
Yeah.
And that stuck with me. And there's no way, so Grandpa's going to see this, and he's like, oh, okay, that was pretty good parenting advice. But yeah, there's no way he remembers that. But it's something that has always stuck with me. I might have been around, I don't know, maybe I was between your age and maybe 12 at that point. So so I think that is something that is in you, because I know I've told you that as well. But it is okay to, like, bring up in conversation.
Yeah, like, I mean, I could say it without bragging about it.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I do a podcast with my dad. Just, like, you could say it like that, even.
Yeah, like if someone's doing icebreakers or tell me something about you that we would never know.
Like, I could.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, I could in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but, I mean, it's not like me to just, like, say it.
Right, I understand.
Yeah.
Or, like, some of the cool experiences you may have had at sporting events or this, that. Like, you don't, but you can bring them up in conversation.
In
like,
the right time.
Exactly. And finding that right time is part of growing up and maturity and reading other people. But I don't want you to be, I don't want you to hold it back. I want you to find those moments to mention that you're not, but you're not bragging about it. But you've always been very conscious of that, which I've appreciated. But there are times you can just drop something in.
Yeah.
Okay. So 200 episodes means we have done this pretty much every single week for the past 4 years.
Pretty much every single.
Right. Our longest break was last summer when you were away, and it's going to be the same thing this year, or about 6 weeks. And so in another 200 episodes, you're going to be a teenager.
Yeah.
Okay. So
that's crazy.
So I've got a few questions about that. One, well, who knows? We'll be still living in this apartment. Who knows? Mom and I think about it all the time. But anyway, if we are here,
yes,
will you have the elephants on your wall at 13?
I have no idea. I have no idea. I don't even know how to think about that. In 4 years, if I'm gonna have those on my wall, I have no idea.
In 4 years, you're gonna be 13 years old. Can you even? Is there anything that comes to mind right now? We didn't prep this at all, but is there anything that comes to mind right now that you think, wow, at 13, I'm going to be doing this, and we might be talking about this?
No, because I have no idea what's going to happen in the future. Like, I have no idea. I have no idea what I'll be doing then. In 4 years.
Do you think our topics, starting middle school next year, do you think our topics might change? You're starting a new school next year, so our topics will probably change.
Probably a little bit about some of them, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, a new school, new kids, new environment, new curriculum,
probably
all
about
that kind of
the
thing.
School topics, yeah.
Yeah. All right. One of my favorite things, though, is how every one of these podcasts ends, and that is a hug and a kiss.
Yes.
And so when I've gone back and watched a bunch, and I put out this clip too.
It's an awesome video.
Of just over the years of the two of us just saying, I love you, and then you saying, I love you, and a hug and a kiss, and that's that.
Yeah.
And I think it's a beautiful way to end every conversation, just like we do, no matter what has happened during the day. Yeah. When you go to bed, I'm always going to give you a hug and a kiss, say, I love you, I'm proud of you, and that's that. Okay. Well, here's to 200 more episodes.
Yep.
I'm really proud of you, and I love you.
Love you.